My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of the 1985 movie Fright Night. And this review will have spoilers, so if you haven't seen it, go and watch it, then come back and watch this review because I will be going in depth. This is my favorite vampire movie of all time. There are some great ones there. I love Let Me In, I love The Lost Boys, I love Near Dark, I love From Dusk Till Dawn, I even love Bordello of Blood, but this is the reigning champion. It just absolutely nails this subgenre, and as a movie from the 80s, it feels like an 80s movie in the best possible way. It's entertaining, it's tense, it's charming, it's atmospheric, and I just love it for all those reasons. And I also don't think this movie gets the credit it deserves in how perfectly paced and structured the first two acts are. Every single scene has importance, and it evolves the plot forward in some kind of way. From Charlie noticing his neighbors moving in and putting coffins in the basement, to him realizing that these girls are going missing, to him realizing that Jerry has fangs, to the way that he realizes he's safe as long as he doesn't invite Jerry in, to Charlie's mom inviting Jerry in, to Jerry threatening Charlie, to him trying to get the police involved. Just every single beat of it works. It truly does. And then I also love the fact that we've got this entire plot where he's trying to get Peter Vincent to help him out, and Peter Vincent thinks this kid is insane, but his friends get Peter Vincent to go along with it. They all just think Charlie is losing his mind. But then Peter realizes that Jerry doesn't have a reflection, and that scene is handled so perfectly, it gives me chills every single time. And then we just get this escalation from that point forward, where Charlie starts to lose all of his support as Peter Vincent is too scared to do anything. Ed gets turned evil, and then Amy gets put in this trance and gets kidnapped by Jerry. Well, she gets turned into a vampire. And you really feel the stakes and just the emotional weight behind everything, behind this boy's life crumbling beneath him. And it's really effective at that. And I also do love the relationship between Charlie and Amy. It feels really authentic in its own way. Like how Charlie legitimately does care for Amy, but he keeps getting distracted by everything going on, and how she lashes out at that. And I love that scene where they're making amends and then she grabs a burger and puts it in his face after getting distracted by the TV. But she still goes back to him the next day because she gets annoyed, and it feels like a real high school relationship. But the way that she's actually there for him while things start to escalate, I thought was really sweet. And when she does get taken over pretty much, it's because you care about the relationship that it has weight behind it. And just watching her dance with Jerry in that one scene, and Charlie's just helpless there, an incredible moment. That dance scene is really well done. Like, you just buy the fact that she goes from this scared girl to this confident woman just like that. And it's all because of the trance she's in. And you start to feel like Amy is losing herself, that she's not in control. And there's moments where she regains control only for her to lose it again. It's just a really effective, really well shot moment with music that enhances it. So that stuff is really great. And then everything with Peter Vincent, I think, is really great as well. He starts off as a side character, barely in the movie, but within the span of like 20 minutes, he goes from this scared guy who's out of his depths, who's a complete fraud, to him gaining bravery and courage and wanting to help this boy out. And you buy every beat of it. You know, the scene where he kills Ed, he goes from a range of scared to sympathizing with the victim and showing pity for him. And it's a really well done moment. And I just think that this character is very well written. And I think it's a very well directed by Tom Holland. Not that Tom Holland, but the other one, who's actually a really good director. I think he only directed 3 movies, but all 3 of them are really good. This movie's great, Child's Play is great, Thinner is good. I wish we got more movies from him because I do like his directing and I do like what he brings to this movie. I love the level of atmosphere here, especially the fog that's constantly coming out of Jerry's house. I love the way Jerry's house looks. It looks very threatening. It looks like a very scary mansion, especially when you walk in and there's that stairway. I love the production design. And I love the use of practical effects. Whether it's the vampire makeup and the teeth, especially when Amy turns in the end, that's excellent. But when Billy dies, one of my favorite scenes just ever. I love the practical effects here as this green slime starts oozing out and then he turns to bones and his body's falling apart. It's like you're watching a guy completely melt and fall apart just like that. And then I love the obvious when he falls and then all the bones go down the stairs. It's a very well edited sequence and it does look great. I love the scene where Ed turns from werewolf back to human. That looks great. And I love the look of the practical effects when Jerry gets defeated. Just all of it's so great, and I wish we got that kind of filmmaking today. Because there's nothing like 80s horror practical effects. There just isn't. And I love the over-the-top sound effects in certain moments. I love the camera zooms in certain moments. It's all got its own charm, and I think it's a very well-directed movie. And this movie does manage to be very intense. There's that one confrontation early on between Charlie and Jerry just throws him around and nearly kills him just like that. You feel absolutely hopeless for the main character. And on top of that, not a single person believes Charlie. And you understand why. This whole idea that his neighbor is a vampire killing people, it's pretty outlandish, but in this case, it's the reality. And you just feel so hopeless as no matter how hard he tries, he just can't convince anyone. It's always a trope in horror movies that the cops can't help. And in this movie, he actually tries and the cops just think he's insane. So I think the movie's really effective at that. And then we get to the cast, and I think everyone gives a great performance. William Ragsdale, I've heard some people say he doesn't got the charisma or the screen presence to carry this movie, and I completely disagree. He clearly puts his heart and soul into this movie, and I think he plays every beat of Charlie so perfectly. Then you've also got Amanda Beers, who I think does a great job. You really do buy the fact that she loves Charlie, and she goes from, like I said, this scared girl to this confident, threatening presence in the last act so perfectly. You've got Stephen Geoffrey, who just has such an annoying voice. Every time he's on screen, I thought he was absolutely obnoxious and I couldn't stand him. And that only gets heightened in the last act of the movie, and that's exactly what was needed for this character. Nobody else could have played him like he did. And that scene, well, he's got the Raggedy Ann wig on. I think it's a really funny scene. And then we've got Dorothy Fieldings as Charlie's mom, and I think she does the overbearing parent so perfectly. You've also got Roddy McDowall, who I think is legitimately really great here. He hits those comedic beats perfectly, and he portrays this character arc in such an authentic manner. You've got Chris Sarandon, who I think is the standard. This is the all-time best vampire in any movie ever, and it's based on this guy's charisma. He's so smooth and cool and badass, and he just pulls off this character and every beat of it so perfectly. And then you've got Jonathan Stark as Billy, who I also think does a really good job. So this movie is incredibly well directed, it's incredibly well acted. The first 2 acts are perfectly paced and structured. It's got some amazing practical effects. So what are my issues with this movie? Well, I kinda already told you. I said the first 2 acts are perfectly paced and structured, and unfortunately that's not the case with the last act. I do think the movie ends with a bit of a mess, because it's building to the last act so perfectly, but it just goes on for far too long to the point where any bit of tension is lost. Like they get to the house, and then we've got Peter running away, and then we've got Charlie scaring the Jerry away. He goes to see Amy, and then he gets locked in there. And then Peter Vincent has to deal with Eddie. And then he comes back to the house. Then he lets Jerry out. And then they decide to leave without Amy. And then they encounter Billy. And then they decide to go back to Amy, only to run away from Amy, only to encounter Jerry, only for Jerry to turn into a bat and attack them. And then they go to the basement. And it's just like, it's a bit here, then there. We're going here. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Like, why would you leave Amy? Didn't you want to rescue her? Like, I understand that it's a bit all over the place, and it's a tad bit messy, unfortunately. And I think if they tighten it up by 10 minutes, it would have made it all the better. I just feel like they could have done it better. Maybe have it so they go to the house, Peter Vincent runs away, deals with Evil Ed, while Jerry's left to encounter Jerry and try to save Amy, and then Peter Vincent comes in at the last second and breaks the windows and saves the day. I feel like that could have been better because it's a bit messy. And then I also have a few issues with certain moments of the last act. Like the fact that Evil Ed turns into a werewolf. How did that happen? Is there some part of vampire lore I don't understand? Because they turn into bats typically, so where did this wolf come from? And then it ends on a note where Evil Ed is alive, but it's pretty clear that he dies earlier, especially with the removal of the cross from his forehead. So that doesn't work for me. And then there's this whole subplot that Amy looks like someone from Jerry's past that just isn't needed. If Jerry just saw her and wanted to turn her based on the fact that he wanted to hurt Charlie, that would be more than enough. And then we also don't quite know what Billy is. We clearly know that he's Jerry's guardian, but is he a zombie? Is he a vampire? What's the deal there? So I feel like they could have given some answers. So this movie isn't quite perfect. I do got those issues, but they don't really affect my enjoyment of the movie as a whole all too much. I still think this is a really great movie and still the best vampire movie ever made. I think the script is top notch for the first two acts. I think the last act, despite its issues, still have emotional weight behind it, still have some tension, and still have amazing practical effects. The entire cast does great. There's plenty of charm. There's plenty of funny moments. There's plenty of tense moments. I still have a blast with this movie. I'm going to go ahead and give it an 8.5 out of 10. Okay, Fright Night. What do you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon. And Gavin out.